Hi, greetings. My name is Jessica Lee, and I am the International Youth Conference Director. This session is From Awareness to Action, Youth-Led Actions for Navigating the Climate Crisis and Building a Sustainable Environment. Joining me today are three amazing speakers. The first is Ms. Puja Tiwawala. She's the founder and executive director of Youth Climate Collaborative. The next speaker is Mr. Roberto Hernandez Juarez. He's an activist and researcher on sustainability and climate change. He's from Mexico. He's also an environmental lawyer. And the next speaker is Ms. Kazaya Girosano. She is the lead of external affairs at UniFi. And please, Puja, I would like to turn the floor to you so you can talk to us about the climate work that you're involved in and any tips, resources, and messages you would like to give to our youth, young adults, and people of all ages who are involved in climate work or who are interested in getting involved in climate work.
Thanks so much, Jessica. Nice to see everyone again. So my name is Puja Tilvawala. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm based in Bensalem in New York when I'm not traveling. Bensalem is a little suburb of Philadelphia, but I was born in India and grew up here. So I am going to my screen's already sharing, right?
Not yet, Puja, but you may share your screen when you're ready.
Oh, it's not sharing. Okay. Whoops. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. All good?
Yes,
Perfect.
all good. Yep.
All right. So the agenda for my little presentation, I'm going to introduce myself and then some challenges that young people and peers have faced while in the climate movement, then an overview of Youth Climate Collaborative, and then Rivet, which I'm an advisor for, and then how you can turn your ideas into action with some solution sites as resources, and then a little deep breath exercise from my friend. All right. So, who am I? I have been involved in the climate movement for about 5 years now. I started when I was 22 years old. I'm 27 now. I went to American University in Washington, D.C., and got degrees in economics and international studies, focusing on justice, ethics, and human rights. The picture that you see on the left was my very first climate conference. It was the Global Climate Action Summit in 2018 in San Francisco, Jessica's hometown. And when I was in this space, it was amazing to see the ambition that everyone had and the momentum and the passion, because it was right after America had pulled out of the Paris Agreement. But then local actors, the national government, and even other international actors were teaming up to say, you know what, we're still in this. And just because our government is not supporting our action, that doesn't mean we need to stop. Let's double down on this and let's keep going, right? And so that really inspired me to continue just like finding my way through with conversations with people, online research, and figuring out how can I get more and more involved in the climate movement. So then my first job out of college was with the Meridian Institute in Washington, D.C. And with them, I got to serve as like a facilitator and observer and note taker for all these stakeholder convenings where we would bring let's say the environmental issue of the day was plastic waste. So we would convene stakeholders such as waste pickers, then plastic producers, researchers, and discuss solutions for coming together to eliminate plastic waste. And this would give us a good sense of learning different people's positions, learning how to have patience while challenging people to move faster, right? Often people are in agreement that we do need to fix this, but the issue is when and how, and who is going to be at the forefront of the cost and impact until we bring that change more immediately. So then after doing that for a year and a half, I found this application on LinkedIn that was for someone to submit their plan to educate, empower, and activate young people for the climate movement. And for 8 months, I had already been working on a plan because one of my former professors, when I had gone to an event, was like, I was telling him some of my ideas, and he's like, you should start writing this stuff down. So I just started writing this stuff down, preparing for, I guess, the day that I was ready to turn it into to act on it, right? For it to not just be this two-dimensional piece of paper, but actually three-dimensional implementation. And luckily, when I applied for that grant, I got it, and I had received $60,000 to start my organization, Youth Climate Collaborative, and that was the first support that I really got to back up my ideas and work full time on it. So I did that for a year, and we became this global hub of resources and tools to create a more just and inclusive climate movement for young people by increasing access to the space and creating those resources to sustain young people's involvement and facilitate intergenerational power sharing. Let's see. So I did that, and then the funders liked my work, so they wanted me to be their youth engagement manager for a year. So I was that for 1 year at the Climate Initiative, but it was hard to do both things at the same time. I was losing momentum on my own organization, so then I just quit my job in December. And although I don't have health insurance right now, it was a good decision because I can still do the work that I want to do. So I'll go through some of the challenges that I see young people facing that peers have also mentioned. One is financial need and limited resources. So there's a lot of unpaid jobs and internships, shorter term funding in this space. There's a need for more trust-based philanthropy, it's called, where you might be just trusted with unrestricted funding. Like the 50K that I got, I was allowed to hire interns with it. I was allowed to use it as needed with permission. But recently in February, I won this 50K award. So last time it was just 10K unrestricted, this time 50K. And there's a lot of freedom around how to use it. And the reporting is very minimal. I only have to turn in a report midway through and at the end of the year, and they trust me to use the money well. And so I encourage other funders, philanthropists, investors to adopt similar trust-based models. So other challenges are emotional challenges like burnout, eco-anxiety, climate grief, having to take on multiple responsibilities because, pursuing your passion sometimes doesn't pay the bills. So fortunately, since the pandemic, there has been an increase in resources going towards addressing mental health. So that's been a nice change to see. Then there's difficulty in finding a community to do work with, limited or no access to mentors, especially if you're not in the space, and it's hard to naturally meet people who are in it and, build that relationship. So you have to find your way. And not be afraid to just go for it. Like if you see somebody who's super interesting on LinkedIn or that you meet at a conference, make that first step to go up to them or to introduce yourself and see if they naturally gravitate towards you too and are interested in your work, and you can build that relationship over time. Don't say no to yourself first. Then let's see. Limited networking opportunities, not knowing how to get started. Some other challenges are a lack of youth seats and voices at decision-making tables. So this is really important. With time, we're seeing an increase in funding towards climate tech and towards climate opportunities. And with this increase in funding, it matters who is on the boards of the organizations, the foundations, et cetera, that are receiving these funds to then disperse to communities and to solutions. And so by having young people and people most impacted by climate change on these boards in this decision making, we can influence where that money is going. That's super important. And if you see organizations that don't have these voices on their boards, you should really encourage them, to make that available. Then there's low diversity in mainstream narratives. We're not always seeing the most impacted people having the platform to share not just their stories, but their solutions. And often English narratives of, English speaking folks or abled folks get the platforms over those who require additional support or that are just not speaking in English. Then this lack of trust because we're youth, right? Because we're younger, that needs to be strengthened. And that can only happen if there are chances to work together, right? If there's always just a separate youth advisory board or youth advisory council, and there's not an intergenerational council or an intergenerational team, there's not a chance for people to see what each other is capable of and build that trust. So that's something to push for as well. Then low diversity in the field, especially in leadership positions, right? You'll see people of color in roles like diversity, equity, inclusion roles and stuff when it's the head of that, but harder to find people of color and those most impacted in the other like CEO roles and stuff, harder. Okay, and then a need for opportunities to skill up. Missed opportunities for highlighting green job pathways, the need to embed climate education, like mandate it in classrooms. Then there's a few other ones too, like access to internet, computer, language barriers. So those are some challenges. And then a little bit about my organization, Youth Climate Collaborative. If you scan this QR code, you can see our link tree and follow us to learn more about us. But a little overview, we have this intergenerational boards initiative where we're doing research on orgs that have young people on their boards to help with that decision making. And we're summarizing the models used because now foundations and companies are coming to us saying, we want to involve youth in our decision making, but we want to make sure we're not doing it in a tokenistic way. What is the best way to do this? What insights do you have? There's a real interest for it. Then with our Climate Courage program, we're actually looking for artists right now to help create this climate mental health journal with us. We're going to provide a stipend of $100 to 20 artists to design 4 pages each. And you can be from anywhere in the world. So definitely follow us to learn more about that. Our Dare to Envision podcast is available in multiple languages. We interviewed 50 young people around the world to share their visions of a better future and community for themselves and their families and their communities. Search Green is our directory of jobs, opportunities, funding. So if you're looking for ways to get involved, you can zoom into where you live, see who's around you, and learn how to get involved. You can even create a free account and save opportunities. You can also post and share opportunities. Our climate expression is about culture and climate. We are doing research and capturing how people express themselves and their relationships with the earth around the world, whether it's through dance or through art or through word. And then if you haven't heard of Local Conference of Youth, Regional Conference of Youth, Global Conference of Youth, and COP and everything, there's a lot of ways to get involved in international climate policy through Youngo, through us, through Care About Climate, and a lot of other organizations. And even One Up Action has this opening right now, if you're in the US, for 14 to 25-year-olds to learn how to write climate policy. Those are just some things we do. And then Rivet, as I was saying earlier, is trying to create the world's largest microgrant fund for youth-led action. And we're doing that by partnering with brands, influencers, NGOs to fund this change. So check us out. This I'll just briefly go over. I'll share this presentation later so that you can see the links and take your own time to go through the the resource. So this is just for how you can turn your ideas into action. You want to define the challenge that you're trying to address, identify a solution to that challenge, create a vision statement, and start taking the steps to partner with people or find a team to implement the change, measure the impact, and then share all of that. So there's a little guide that I have in here. I'll share the presentation in the chat. So, well, is the chat public, Jessica?
Yes, the chat is public. Well, if you,
Okay.
yeah, if you do have the access to post, then you should be able to post to all
It
participants.
says everyone in the studio private chat. We can figure that out later.
Oh, okay. Then you may not have access to post outside in the public domain, but you're more than welcome to uh, actually get into the Facebook, YouTube, or Twitter accounts, and you can follow up with the participants that way.
Okay, and I'll share with you, like, in case you're able to share.
You may share with me, and I will share with the public.
Thank you.
You're
And
welcome.
then these are just some solution sites. I made this quick Google Doc that has like a list of websites that post like funding opportunities and jobs and fellowships and all of that. So check that out. Is there time for this quick video or should we move on?
Please, yeah, you may actually show your video.
Okay. My friend made this. Why is it not? I don't know what's happening. 1 second. Let me get it to work.
As Puja is trying to show the video, I just want to turn to the public. There is already interest in getting involved with the Youth Climate Collaborative. So that is a really good sign. Because from Puja's presentation, we're able to see the dynamics of networking, the dynamics of connection, and the dynamics of scaling up climate works, of inviting interested parties to take climate actions to secure a sustainable future. What it means to be sustainable, we have to explore what it means to be sustainable, how we're able to live a sustainable living lifestyle, what kind of climate movements we're trying to spearhead, and what areas of climate action we are trying to get into. Of course, that will depend on the individual's expertise and the individual's interests. Finally, we have learned to take concrete steps of taking meaningful action towards climate action, preserving, conserving the environment.
Sorry. I don't know if you can hear it.
That's all right.
Okay, hold on. How do I replay?
With the Willow project being moved, this takes a toll on our health. Many others, indigenous leaders, people fighting for protection of nature, I feel this pain, this deep ecological connection and sensitivity. When Mother Ocean, when Mother Nature hurts, I also hurt. It's more spiritual than what we want to believe, and it's more connected to all of our lives. The climate crisis is an opportunity to center hope, justice, and love in everything that we do. In the community-led, indigenous-led, BIPOC, and sovereign solutions we bring to the forefront. In mobilizing industry, economy, and society to work towards a bluer, greener future. The climate crisis can be a rallying cry for hope, for joy, and for connection. Have a unique opportunity to rekindle a symbiotic relationship with land and water, with the cosmos. The same water that flows in our universe in our mother ocean, in our mother planet, flows throughout ourselves. We were birthed out of our own mini ocean. With the Willow Project being approved, we must know that we can't lose hope. We have to keep that joy, that power, and that collective community we're building for climate action intact. We have to rally and use this as more fuel to our inner flame to rise above systems of oppression and injustice, and to create and envision a future that prioritizes human rights, environmental rights, and this symbiotic relationship between the worlds we're bridging. As young people and Gen Z, we have a unique opportunity to do this, a once in a generation opportunity to step up and shine our inner lights bright. We all have the unique power and skill set that's needed to take action to protect our ocean and our planet. The question is, how will you unlock that and tap in? Climate health is directly linked to
Thank
human
you,
health.
everyone.
The health of our Mother Earth is directly linked to the health of ourselves and our communities.
Thank you, Puja. Thank you so much for the wonderful video. And now I would like to turn to the next speaker, Roberto. So glad to have you here.
Hello, Jessica. Hello, Acacia, Puja. Everyone on the chat, I've been reading you. Oh my God, it's amazing. And after this presentation, after Puja's, I think I can only highlight some points of global action and how, from my perspective, in the global South, in Mexico, and being from a minority, from a migrant, and also from the diversity, how the challenges that we face because I think the power of testimony, and I think that my story might not be too far or too different from other people's perspective, and I think that's the most powerful because in my personal opinion, that's what really impacted me and take me to the climate movement. So, from seeing other people just like me, or from people that I took a little part from it and then build that version of me, which isn't constantly changing. It is constantly changing. So thank you everyone for joining. Thank you for the space. Please let me know and tell me when to shut up because sometimes I just keep talking. So thank you. And yeah, I really just wanted also to highlight what we were doing, and but also what I think after this, and reflecting like live and right now after Pujas is how we are connected. Because I personally know Puja for probably 2 or 3 years, thanks to social media, and that's when I'm putting social media and platforms like this unique channel and this this is space where we all can get together and start collabing and working because I don't know if we remember this because sometimes we tend to forget even though it's immediately, but due to COVID like 2 3 years ago there was no space to talk or to articulate. The streets were over, strikes were over, people had other priorities, and environment went to a second, third, or 11th level of priority. So that's really important how we can all work together and articulate. And I want to highlight that I started working, with Puja and other climate activists. Also, I met Buddy and Marie Claire and other global activists, and that's thanks to social. Oh, Gokul, of course, he wouldn't forgive me if I don't mention him. Gokul, which I also met on social media, and that's how like completely honest and transparent how I really focus my main message to work on social media, to articulate on social media, and work collectively, to join forces because Of course, there's a lot of activities and there's a lot of things that we're doing. For example, in Mexico City, in specifically in the South Global, working with migrants from Haiti coming to Mexico, trying to get to the US, but being in Mexico for a long period, we start working with them as climate migrants, and we also have a tremendous amount of indigenous community here in Mexico, specifically from the south part of the countries. And right now, around me, there's some other climate activists because I just came from other climate talk, and they're also hearing what I'm saying, and that's really powerful because they're also from other states of Mexico, and they probably some years ago we all have a different perspective, but I do think now we have like this common sense of what's happening, and that's what I call the climate emergency or the climate action. So we all on the same symphony and we all synchronize our actions. And I think that's the beauty of the movement. That's the beauty of social media, and that's the beauty of this session to really have these different versions, visions, and perspective. But at the end of it all, trying to figure it out how to work collectively. And I love to take this COVID-19 example that, the story goes that it started in a wet market of China, but after 3 years, we know it didn't end in that wet market in China. So it really affected worldwide. And I was also sharing this important message that it doesn't matter if it's in Mexican forest or Brazilian forest or in Indian forest, the viruses that are in nature affect us all the same, or probably not the same if we start talking about economically, social, and as Puja says, also on privilege. We really need to be reflected on that, and I think that's the most powerful tool and message that we can give to the next generation. Because I'm amazed also by the next generation how fast thinking they are and how fast they articulate. And we're in between. We're between Gen Z, Gen X, millennials, and we have to work together. So that's what I take the social media plan first. Also, thanks to Goodwill, as Puja were also sharing off camera, this amazing platform that joins millions of hundreds of activists and people that probably they're not really interested or they don't consider themselves like climate activists, or they're working on climate. And I think that's the first step. So my job, everything that I've done, I think it resumes in that to give a resume, a short call to action to these people to, I don't know if I can share my screen though. I just have like 3 slides.
Yes, please, you can share your screen.
Okay, so I'm gonna present this really 3 slides because I think that's what really recalls all the years of activism that we have done here in Mexico, and personally the global action that we've taken. So just give me 1 second because this says thanks to security now you have to give access. It's always crazy, but 1 second. Oh no, I can't. It have to restart it. So sorry about that. It have to restart. But anyways, I can also share it on the group or put a link on the comment section. Sorry about that. But it's a quick call to action to everyone to join and to know your carbon footprint. That's what I resume after years of work and activism, and how we can start, being reflective and really do something about our process in climate to really know. Because first of all, it's based on science, and that's the most powerful message that I think we have on the climate movement. Everything based on science and everything. We have the beautiful IPCC. We have the last report some weeks ago, like the resume of the original report, and the information is there. So what are we doing with that information? So I think there's a lot of initiatives as Pujas. There's a lot of initiatives worldwide. There is I cannot even mention them all. Climate reality, a world in IYC for youth. This very same initiative, youth building the future, global climate entertainment. There's a lot of projects and activities going on right now. But the real effect that we're having is individual. So if we want to have a global impact, I do believe it's individually. So my call to action, I'm sorry for not sharing the slides right now, but it's to download a world app, which is a simple application with world works with the UNDP, and it was, in COP. I know them, and I've been working with them also for some months. And I think it's so beautiful because you not only learn about the SDGs or climate through videos and games and activities, but you also get reminders to log your activities or your daily activities that that you do every day, and that also impact the planet. So that's really powerful because if we all, as I said before, if we all synchronize and we all work in that a symphony, I think we can achieve this bigger call to action, which is to stop CO2. That's, I think, the big call to action that IPCC put on the table, how to stop CO2 emissions. But how are we going to stop it if we don't know? I don't know myself CO2 emissions. So that's a world up, which A, because there's no planet B. So there's a world, um, and that's really important to download a simple app, to play it, to have it in your phone, to get your carbon footprint, and also to don't feel alone and don't have that climate anxiety that Puja mentioned. There's these beautiful communities, and Goodwill is an amazing example of that because I remember that in COVID years, I started, getting messages and sending messages to other climate activists that I saw on the app, and now we're close friends. Now we have developed projects. For example, here in Mexico City, we just recorded first ever movie from youth to youth, with people and youth from all over the world, from the Netherlands, from Mexico, from India, from the US, from Brazil. People from different countries came to record that movie, and we get that fun because we are together. Because it's not a simple project just like based in Mexico and for Mexico. It's a project that youth from around the world collectively join. So I will also post the code on the link on this on the session right now. And yeah, I will invite personally and really invite everyone to check Goodwill, to create a profile, to join the challenges, not only because you can get cash for participating and win the challenges, but that's the reivindication of how we related with corporate business and how we relate and work with social media platforms. So I was also sharing this off camera now that I'm working with TikTok, this amazing platform, which is the biggest platform right now of content. I think all platforms and all social media have a role to spread the word on climate change and specifically climate action, which is what I'm sharing right now. This call to action to the lawn, a world and Goodwill. So that will be my part because from my experience, as I said before, I made a lot of friends. I made a lot of connections. I wouldn't even be here if it were for those apps and for those friends that I've been working on constantly. That I express my feelings that I heard, and they also listened to me. So yes, it's a UNDP initiative, so you should definitely check it out. It's not something randomly. It's super verified. It's amazing the content that you get every day. You can log your activities, and you're thank me later, everyone, because it's amazing to be honest. So I think that will be my part also to hear and have this feedback from everyone. And yes, please don't stop believing that climate action is positive. Don't stop believing and don't stop articulating and acting on and for climate, because it's not only for the older generation right now, it's not for us yet, for our generation, it's for the next generation that already have its future um, I don't know how to translate the word, but the future is compromised. the future of the next generation is already compromised, and we need to talk about that. We need to talk about, as Buddy said, how we take care of the ocean, how the big cities take care of their trash and make sure so that it didn't end up in the ocean, etc. So all those small actions, all that small mustard seed that we're planting within the people seeing us right now, I think that's really important. It once happened to me when I was 9 years old and I was invited to a water conference. Since 9 years old, I've been working with water and different activisms on climate, and I'm really, really grateful for everything that I've been done and for this moment to impact and share the little that I've done with the new activisms and the new generation. So thank you so much.
Roberto, being on this panel is like being with my brothers and sisters, because I met Kazaya at the youth assembly, and I met Puja after connecting with Kazaya, and I Glasgow, that conference of youth was my first climate event. So I went to Glasgow, connected with Puja, connected with the Children and Youth constituency of UNFCCC, and also many youth leaders, many young leaders that are involved in the climate space. And afterward, I am just becoming so active in the climate space because I have learned that taking climate actions, responsible climate actions, is so important to securing a sustainable future. And especially when we live in different communities, every community has different characteristics. And it is us, the youth and young adults, that will spearhead current movements and also future movements that will try to add that sense of preservation, that sense of urgency in realizing that the climate reality cannot be ignored. And from Puja's presentation and Roberto's presentation, we understood that having equitable digital access is crucial in connecting all of us and amplifying the action that we are trying to make. Secure, reliable connection, and how to use media, audiovisual mechanisms to amplify climate change messages, to realize that the climate reality is here and that cannot be ignored, and how we can use different art forms. For example, music, it can help us to support climate action, helps us to heal and build communities. And that's why for the International Youth Conference 7th edition, we've had the honor to partner with the San Francisco Symphony. And the San Francisco Symphony, they've offered us to attend their performances, concerts, and also attend their youth orchestra rehearsal. So here I would like to give a special thanks to the San Francisco Symphony for the work that you're doing and for collaborating with us. And I would like to thank you, Roberto, and thank you, Puja, for bringing in the realization that we have a legacy of climate actions that we need to realize, and we need to carry that legacy. And now, thank you. And I would like to turn to Kazaya.
Thank you so much, Jessica, for that wonderful kind of like wrap up message. First of all, I'd like to thank you so much for all the organizers of International Youth Conference, Jessica, Ali, Hawa, for organizing such a huge, impactful platform. And just going back to what Jessica said, having gatherings like this, we get to meet people and we get inspired by them. Then in the next step, who knows, maybe you meet them at the next conference, or you work together towards something. And I feel like being in the space and in the youth space and the climate action space, if there's one thing that makes us unique, is that we are so active. We want to do something. Youth globally, we see them getting themselves involved with climate action, whether it is through local initiatives, whether it's marching in the streets, whether it is going to COPs, negotiating on behalf of their countries. And I feel like over the past year, seeing how the progression of how youth is getting involved in various decision-making processes, it means that the work that we are actually doing is it's happening. I mean, we're getting there. It's not like it's not effective or something. So just to give a brief of introduction about myself, I'm Kazaya. I grew up in the Philippines. Currently, I'm working with the United International Federation of Youth, also known as UniFi. We are the youth engagement of the Water and Climate Coalition, and recently we handled youth engagement at the UN Water Conference, which just convened last month. So, about my presentation, I'm going to, how do I say this? Walk you all through our work in UniFi. Give me 1 second. I'm trying to share my screen. Okay. Okay. And I think I can share my screen now. Entire screen. Oh my gosh. Okay. So can you all see my screen?
Not yet, Kazaya.
Oh, not yet.
You know, speaking of which, I was actually in Dallas, Texas over the weekend, and I was working with the UniFi team members on coordinating the Green Career Zone and activities in the Next Gen Pavilion. That was amazing.
Yes, Rebecca is, speaking of partnerships, EarthX has been one of our valuable partners, especially Becca. We did have UniFi team over at the Dallas conference, but unfortunately I couldn't come. Otherwise I would have seen you, in which I saw you and Puja last year also. Can you see my screen or no? If it's not working.
Not
Okay,
yet.
I'm just gonna briefly walk you through what UniFi is. So UniFi is
You can also, if you want to share it with me real quick, I can try to put it up while you're talking.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. I feel like it's better to have much time for questions, so that we can interact with the audience. So UniFi basically is the youth constituency of the Water and Climate Coalition, and it was actually established last year, in the beginning of January 2022, where one of our biggest mandates on the time when we got established is to handle the youth engagement at the water conference. It was interesting when we were given this mandate, there were politicians and business leaders saying, we don't want another statement, you need to create an effective mechanism for you to engage in UN processes, because correct me if I'm wrong, sometimes youth inclusion is defined as having a youth speaker and then that's it. And we really want to change that. So what we did over the past year was develop this policy document, per se, kind of like a menu of solutions to address water and climate issues globally. So to do this, the UniFi team traveled to different countries of the world, to different regions, ask youth from different backgrounds, asking them, how do you perceive water and climate issues? Because the water and climate crisis is not a one size fits all, it's not a one size fits all challenge. Perhaps, for example, a climate education awareness program in Asia looks different than in Northern America, because perhaps the best way to engage in youth in Asia is through culture and music, and maybe in North America it's through the educational system. So this was something that we worked on in UniFi over the year, and we proudly we launched the YDPA at the water conference over the past month. And kind of moving forward, one of the things that we're prioritizing is to really give young people the platform, to talk, to share opportunities, and also to get engaged in their local projects. I mean, also one of my role in UniFi is doing partnerships and external affairs, which means talking to stakeholders, talking to businesses, member states, and asking them, what is your biggest problem? And I did resonate with what Puja said, that there's the trust gap between youth and these stakeholders, where there's a lot of finances available in terms of climate action, but it's really hard to channel it, because at the end of the day, they don't know who they're giving their money to. And this actually goes to my next point, that if being in this space, you also have to work hard, not only on your vision but also on yourself, because I one of my favorite quotes was by Mahatma Gandhi, when he said that we be the change you wish to see in the world. Essentially, change starts within us. We cannot create change in the world without looking in ourselves first. So going back to the previous point, we have to invest ourselves, which means that we have to invest in our soft and hard skills, whether it's pitching, negotiating, monitoring these funds. And I feel like this is something that also needs to be done in the youth space. But there's a lot of resources out there, whether it's the UN, the World Bank, Coursera. These are things that are readily available, but just need, we just need the initiative to actually invest in these type of things. And the second tips and message that I'd like to also share is hone your story, because hearing Puja's story, hearing Roberto's story, and also knowing Jessica in this space for many years really inspires you. Not only why they started, but also kind of like their progression in the space, their growth, their impact. I mean, if there's one thing that I also hold on to in this space, and when I experience climate anxiety, one person once told me that the best cure to climate anxiety is meaningful action. And sometimes to do that, you really need to engage with people who are doing meaningful work in this space. And lastly, have an intergenerational and intersectoral approach to your advocacy. Because like what Puja and Roberto mentioned, we cannot work in silos. At the end of the day, as much as we want to, separate things like climate and gender, climate and mitigation adaptation, we have to have like an intergenerational, intersectoral approach to the solutions that we want to implement. Because at the end of the day, we have to work with each other. I mean, in the previous months, I've been actually talking to banks, like huge, huge banks, whether it's in Japan or in the US. And one of the things that they experience one of the challenges that they experience in terms of climate finance, channeling these resources to the communities, is that the communities doesn't really trust them. I mean, it's not just that these corporations doesn't trust youth, indigenous women, and indigenous groups and women, but also we also don't trust them in a way. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of things that connect with each other, and as much as we want to also narrow our focus, we also need to have a holistic view of how certain issues connect with each other. And yeah, I feel like that's my short gist. Sorry, I really cannot. I could not share my slides and share the things that we did in UniFi, but your climate advocacy is a journey. It is not a destination. It is something that it's at the end of the day, it is our identity. And I feel like that's what brought us here, is because of our story of what really frustrated us in the world, which in turn turned into our passion. And thank you so much again, Jessica, for having us here.
Thank you, Kazaya. Thank you so much, Roberto. Thank you, Puja. And Kazaya, may I ask how can one join UniFi?
To join UniFi, we do have to become a member. There's like I'll put in the chat the website, but it's essentially www.un1fy.org, and there's like a link to register. We currently are establishing national focal points in almost each country. And most likely we will also open some global positions soon. We're just restructuring right after the conference and trying to see, okay, what's going to be our focus now? Like, how can we turn the YDPay into action? How can we, mainstream it in different sectors and also different conferences? So yeah, definitely. I feel like that's something that, and one thing that I also want to share is we recently launched an app. It's the UniFi app. So if you want to check it out, feel free. I feel like in the future it'll be something where you can message someone, like add someone on something, share opportunities, kind of like a one-stop shop. So yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Kazaya, Puja, and Roberto. And now I would like to turn to all three of you for some closing remarks as we are nearing the end of our panel. Perhaps Puja, would you like to go first?
Are we still doing Q&A?
We can still do Q&A for sure.
Yeah, I think let's do that. Let's do that.
Okay.
Or do you want us to do closing on top of that? I think let's do Q&A first, and then if there's time.
Sounds good. Are you able to access the chat?
We can see the comments.
You can see the comment. Okay, great. Yes.
If anyone has any questions, please add them in the comments.
So far, we've been receiving so many great feedback for our panel. Thank you, speakers, for coming. The session is so educational. There's so many shout outs to our speakers here. This is actually one of the most excited sessions. And I love how Kazaya, Roberto, and Puja, you all shared the work and how they participants can connect with you regarding the climate works. And that's great that we are receiving so many great commentaries. There's a lot of encouragement for all the work that we're doing, that you're doing, because the impact that youth-led initiatives have can be momentous if we take the 17th Sustainable Development Goal to a higher level, meaning that we have to secure networks, we have to connect, but we also have to make that network stronger, make the connection stronger. And that's why we need to have trustworthy information. And we need to have accurate information so that our climate work can be as accurate and connected as possible.
Yeah, may I just add something? I think also, according to everything that we've shared on this session, and knowing, from Kisaya, Puja, and also Jessica, like everyone's trajectory, I think also part of the message that is important for us to highlight is that specifically this year, 2023, after the pandemic and after different politics and politicians and everything around the world, it is so important to take action, and specifically for this year, not only because it resembles the 75th anniversary of the Declaration of Human Rights, which is when we're talking about climate action, when we're talking about climate change or global warming or rising of the seas and plastic emergency, etc., we're talking of human rights. So take that powerful message that this 2023 have, this 75th anniversary of the the Declaration of Human Rights, is so important. And also the call that the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres makes all of us folks around the world to take action on the halfway there campaign, because this 2023 it also ensembles the halfway there campaign of the halfway to achieve the 2030 goals, the Sustainable Development Goals, and the SDGs. So I think that's really important because Kazaya and Puya talk about that. When we talk about climate change, we talk about gender, we talk about companies, we talk about supply chain. Like it depends on the level that we're talking, but it really involves that sustainability. It really involves that, and youth future, youth participation, and youth action. It's in all levels. So it doesn't matter if you're studying an engineer or you're a woman in science or anything that you're doing. You can work or are already working on the SDGs. So ensemble and take that powerful message, just like UniFi. I am amazed because I know UniFi from the beginning, and I know a lot of people from that were in UniFi specifically from Mexico, also in Glasgow. I know they have such a powerful message, and they probably start like working on water or not specifically the oceans, but now the correlative work and that visualization, it really empowers that. And I think that's part of the job that everyone needs to do. Like besides working, I don't know, creating a political party here in Mexico, whatever thing, that's working also on youth participation and women in politics and decision taking, roles, power. So just to share that, and don't to make this clear to everyone, don't let you feel down also sometimes by the profiles, because when I was starting the movement also I saw this a big profiles on climate. I was like, oh my god, do I have to be like them, or when do I become like them, or how do I become like them, talking about the Harris twins in London, in the UK. And now, being allowed to work or working with some other people, you see like, oh, there's this invisible ceiling that we all create, and we have to take that out and really focus on what we're doing and trust what we're doing in our beliefs, in our actions, and everything will take us to that climate leadership or that climate actions. But it does have to come from our heart, which, as you, Jessica, said, I really believe that I'm talking with my family right now, that I'm talking with my sisters, big and small sisters. Don't mention the age, but a big and small sister at the end of it all. So thank you. And yeah, everyone, drop your questions in case of anything. I see they're just asking for the UniFi. I see also the UniFi link here. So yeah, let's keep working, and thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. And there is one question that comes through. The question is, how can we balance the problem of climate crisis between developed and undeveloped countries?
So I think one immediate thing that comes to mind for this is when we're at these conferences, sometimes there's not a lot of chances to interact with each other if most of the sessions end up being more of listening sessions. But it's a matter of taking that time to, when you see people in the hallways or in line for your badge, not being afraid to say hi, especially if they're from somewhere that you're not from, right? They're coming with different experiences, perspectives. So make that introduction, connect, and take that time to see when they're in town till grab a coffee or schedule a time to meet online later and have that exchange of knowledge and that understanding and sharing of perspectives. So that's one solution. Kazaya, do you have another?
What's the question again? I'm sorry. I was reading through the comments, but go ahead.
The question is, how can we balance the problem of climate crisis between developed and undeveloped countries?
I feel like if there's one word to describe it, I would say inclusion. That we need to see more diverse people with more diverse backgrounds, identities, and also whether it also be experiences like in the decision making table, and just tackling this in a climate governance perspective, where last year we saw more youth climate negotiators at COP than most previous years. And although youth is just one aspect of inclusion and the perspective of the global voice in terms of climate, I feel like we're getting there. And I always say this, that once you earn a space, make sure to share it with others, not only with people that look the same, that look like you, but also people that don't look like you, and also people that you don't necessarily agree with, because I feel like this is how we create innovative solutions in the space and also accelerate progress in a way.
And to add on to that, like pass the mic idea, right, that we hear a lot, I would say to all my fellow Western hemisphere living folks, or people living in more privileged countries, if you're in a position of privilege, to share the opportunities that you get. So like, for example, some speaking opportunities, if it's you, then saying, can I bring this person with me? or maybe I'm not the best one to talk about issues in India, even though, I was born there, lived there for a little bit. Why don't you have somebody who's there right now, to speak about that? So we have to make sure that we're sharing as well.
Yeah, if you allow me just to mention this, I think this is also the important role of social media, because that's the platform that gives everyone the same, the same message. So it doesn't matter if you're coming from the US or you're coming from, Mexico, you have the same engagement. It depends on the content that you create and how you involve, how creative you are, and, how you're working after all. And also in the people. So we have to be sensible of, oh, just because he's, I'm sorry for saying this, but just because he's white or just because he or she looks good, I follow her. But the message sometimes, as Puja and Isaiah said, probably it's not coming from the best looking person or the person that we will love to come from, or the way that we will love to come from. But it's an emergency or climate emergency message, and sometimes might be uncomfortable for a lot of people with privilege, as they say. And that's part, and I think that was the COP26 resolution, to make the uncomfortable talks about where's the money, where does your money come from, how are you doing things, because that's how we start making that change. So I think, also, and I said this at COP, social media have a unique role on doing this, but we as users too, by sharing the message and also multiplying those actions, because we have that power and we need to understand that. So having these sessions, inviting the people that we think have this important message to give and give them their platform, that's our job. So that's what we have to do in all levels, not only on virtual but also in person, to allow these people to show up, to show and share their message and their story and their backgrounds. That's the real power, that and how we empower them.
That's great. Thank you so much. And Kazaya, Roberto, and Puja, I would like to turn the floor to you three and see if you have any closing remarks.
I think I'll repeat what I said a little bit earlier. I would say my one big message would be, don't say no to yourself. Like, send that email, send that message on Instagram, say hello in the hallway. You never know when somebody will get back to you and say, and come back to you with positive news. Like, yes, I'll work with you, or yes, I'll have that chat and see if we have alignment. So that is my key message.
Kazaya, Roberto?
I think Roberto's trying to talk.
Oh no, I was saying you go, Kazaya.
Okay. Basically, mine is just going to be just do it. I know being in the space, wearing many hats, experiencing also the lack of financial resources, especially, as a young person who kind of has to survive on a daily basis as well, wearing many hats, experiencing climate anxiety at the same time. I feel like there's something that we also need to look on. And but when I say just do it, I would say keep moving forward every day. I know not every day is going to be great. Not every day you want to get out of your bed and, write an email or write a concept note or attend a meeting. But at the end of the day, if you look at, like, if you put together these small steps that you did each day, it's actually gonna go somewhere, and it creates ripples effect along the way. So I'll hand it over to Roberto.
Yeah, thank you so much. I just want to highlight with two things. First of all, you are not alone. You are worthy, and your message worthy. So share it, start doing it. No, doesn't matter how, but start doing it. Start spreading the word and planting that little seed. And don't forget that the message that you're carrying, it's not only about you and your community. You're also talking about the plants, the animals, the biodiversity, and the resources that we can talk and sometimes we forgot about. And I finished with this for us that in the legal field we share globally, which is in dubio pro natura. In doubt, let's always take nature as the main goal and as our priority. So let's not forget about Mother Nature in all our actions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And as for me, living and working in California, the US, a state that has been continuously impacted by wildfires, forest fires, restoration efforts are crucial in restoring ecosystems and forest lands. Furthermore, extreme heat temperatures, water shortage, atmospheric rivers, floods, and drought also impact the well being of communities and wildlife. Sustainable agricultural strategies, efficient energy mechanisms, and community response contribute to vital disaster risk reduction, mitigation, climate action, and preparedness initiatives. And having experienced tsunami alerts and water conservation due to drought and water shortage, I myself have grown a passion for DRR, disaster risk reduction, mitigation, climate adaptation, water, climate action, environment, and ocean conservation and preservation. I actively participate at the local, national, and international levels by focusing on various disciplines, including career counseling, water and climate education, community building actions, and public health awareness. And I am so glad to have met Kazaya, Puja, and Roberto on my journey. And I wish to meet you all sometime in the future. And I also want to thank you, participants, and thank you to the coordinators, the coordination team of the International Youth Conference for providing all of us a platform for us to connect. Thank you so much, and I wish you all to have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you.